TradingNut, episode 30.
It does this based on what happened yesterday. Is this gap going to run or is it going to come back?
The market's going to do something. Your job is not to fight it.
The market never, ever runs away. It's always there.
That personal diary of trading will make you a much better trader than...
I could be right about the direction, but wrong about the trade.
Don't focus on the monetary side.
Trying to make too much money on a trade is what I have seen killed every trader.
Your losses offer you some of the greatest insight you can find into your mistakes.
Relax, learn the process.
Candlestick pattern trading is a freaking trap.
Don't be in a rush to become a millionaire.
Let the market tell you what the market wants to tell you.
This podcast is not financial, trading, or investing advice of any kind. What's up, traders? Welcome to another installment on the TradingNut podcast. I'm your host, Cam Hawkins, and today we've got Aaron Oetting on the show. Now, Aaron is the stock trader that we're tracking across the course of 2019 to see if he can become a full-time stock trader and basically make a living from this. So he's been partnered up with Jeremy Newsom, and today is we get to hear how he's doing after 3 months. So it's our 3-month update. He's got a good story. He's got lessons to tell us. He's got lessons to teach us. You're going to learn some stuff from here, guys. If you are a struggling trader, if you're struggling with what you're doing, then there's going to be lessons in here, either from myself or from Aaron. Listen up. It's a good episode. And look, if you want to get the sort of fully immersed experience, then check out his first session, the first session he did with Jeremy, which is up on the TradingNut YouTube channel. And it goes for over an hour, well over an hour. And Jeremy walks through how he approaches the market and really gets into some of the market psychology and also, I suppose, some of the more technical aspects to his trading as well. But before we get into that, it just reminded me that last week I actually lost my voice for 2 days. I had a bit of an ear infection and it sort of moved into my throat. I lost my voice for 2 days, and my daughter had the same thing, right? So she had the same thing. I must have caught it off her. But the moral of the story here is I've got a life hack for you. It's not a moral, it's a life hack. I've got a life hack that it's worked twice for me now, and I'm going to give it to you guys because you're my listeners, you're a valued listener, and I want you to stay healthy. And here's the life hack to I suppose avoid getting sick as often. In particular, if you fly a lot. Okay, so if you do a lot of travel, then this could be exactly what you need. So it all actually started after my trip from Malaysia. So I went on the trip. I knew that last time I traveled, I got a really sore earache, and then that turned into a throat infection, and I couldn't swallow for probably 4 or 5 days, and I had to go to the doctor and get antibiotics, and that cleared it up. This time I was like, I'm going to be doing like a lot of traveling, sort of over probably 22 hours in total, if not more, on the planes. So I used all this medical stuff on the way there and the way back. Thought I had it under control, and then I got this dreaded earache again. I was like, hang on a sec, this is what happened when I went to Australia. And I thought, what can I do? And I remembered that my sister-in-law in Australia said to me, if you get a sore ear, either use these drops that you can get called Aqua Air. And I used them, and they didn't work. I used them in Australia, they didn't work. But she also said, and I'd forgot this, she had also said, use a hairdryer to dry out your ear. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, I think at the time when I was in Australia, I didn't have a hairdryer. But back here at home, I did. So after I got back from traveling, I had a couple of days of grace when nothing happened. Then all of a sudden, this earache started. Anyway, got the hairdryer out, gave it a good blast, like sort of 3 to 4 minutes. And you can actually noticeably feel something change in your ear when you finish doing this drying thing. And it was like I was moving from very hot to sort of warm until the heat. I couldn't bear the heat any longer. And anyway, I did that as often as I could for about 2 days, maybe 3. And you know what? The earache went. No throat infection. I just went on with things. Okay, so that worked. Then, as I mentioned, I lost my voice last week. And before I did, I got an earache in the other ear. And I was like, what are the chances? My daughter got the same thing. She got a sore throat. She ended up getting a massive cold, was off school for 4 days. But I did the hairdryer thing again, and what do you know? It worked. I got not the sore throat. I got the lost voice, but it didn't go any further than that. So I was literally done with it in about 2 days, maybe 3, and no cold, nothing like that. Not off work. So guys, I know I've got on for a bit here, but that's a life hack. If ever you want one, get a hairdryer. If you do a lot of traveling and get sick afterwards, and blow your ears out. All right, a little bit off tangent here, but I thought I'd drop that one in today's show. Now, trading wise, I'm actually quite ecstatic with where I'm at with what I've been doing in the most recent times. I've actually held a trade for, I think it must be 4 or 5 days now. 4 or 5 days, and I've locked in some good profit. And the reason this is such a momentous occasion is that this is the first time I've done that in I don't know how long. And the emotion's been really low, like not high emotion where I used to be really high emotion, really low. So think that the worm seems to be turning here. I'd go as far to say it has turned. So, guys, that's my little update. Now let's get on with Aaron's update and hear how he's getting on. All right, enjoy the show. All right, folks, so we've got Aaron Oetting back on the show after, I think it's been a few months, hasn't it, Aaron? Maybe 3 months, is it?
It sounds about right.
Yeah, so look, if you guys haven't heard his first show, you want to dive back into the episodes on TradingNut.com. I can't remember exactly what episode it was. It's very early here. But yeah, head back there, guys, and check it out, because this is where we got introduced to Aaron, a stock trader from Las Vegas who's basically putting all of his effort into trading the stock markets this year. And we paired him up with Jeremy Newsom to basically give him some, mentor him through the process, really, is what we're looking to do. Mentor him through and see if we can basically turn you into a profitable trader by the end of the year. That's the goal. So how are things with you personally anyway, before we get into all the trading details?
It's been busy as can be, man. This is like adding a whole other job. I'm getting up at 6 and doing this into 1, and then working my regular job, and then doing other stuff at night. It's just been long days.
Long days. Oh, right. So you really sort of, this has taken over the world of Aaron. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I'm up at 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. in front of the screen, just grinding it out every day, and then at night I'll try to get it. And obviously I got to run my businesses at some point. So my wife has generously said, hey, look, you start running at 1, and from 1 to about 7, 8 o'clock at night, I'm doing that. And occasionally I've been picking up late night bartending shifts, because at some point I'd like to get enough money to get over PDT here at stock trading.
Yeah. Okay. So you've picked up a bartending job as well.
Yes.
On top of this. Oh my word. Okay. So let's start off with finding out how you actually got on. So I mean, it's been about 3 months. I'm just having a look here. It was episode 22, and the exact date that went live, and I think we recorded it maybe a couple of weeks before, was 14th of February, March, April. So yeah, actually it's only 2 months since this went live, but probably 3 months or 2.5 months since we last spoke. So how you got on? So
I've been about a break-even rate. So mostly because of the end of March, I had a handful of I got greedy.
Right.
Had a couple big losers. It really boils down to I'm in the profit if I hadn't been greedy in 4 trades.
Right. Really? 4 trades?
Yes. Really, when I went back and looked at it, it was pretty much 4 giant losers that just crushed my the P&L and win-loss rate and all that stuff. So, and all of them I should have got out at even. So I just got greedy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And greedy in terms of, did you increase the amount you're risking, or was it more just the fact that you didn't want to get out at break even?
Essentially, I got lucky on one, and I look back at it, and the hardest thing is looking at my losers and figuring out, is this a loser just because, hey, you're going to lose some trades, or is this a loser that, I made a mistake on? And that's been hardest part, is figuring out which, sorting your losers into which category those are into.
Right.
And I think I got lucky on one loser. It dropped down my stop loss, and I said, I think it's going to come back. And it came back. It dropped just under my stop loss, and it came way up, and I ended up making money on it. And that was probably the worst thing that happened to me. because now every loser I'm looking at when it hits the stop loss, I'm like, oh no, it'll come back. Yeah.
So when you say it hits a stop loss, is that just a level that you're
a level?
In,
so level I'm looking at, like, it was kind of like every time I buy in, especially, and Jeremy talks about this as well, is you should probably know at what point do you think you're wrong. At what point are you going to take my losses? I'm going to move on. And so one time I hit it there, and I was looking at the chart, and I'm going, I think it's going to come back. And it did, and then I ended up making money on that trade. And then that predilected me for the next 4 or 5 trades to think that same thing was going to happen. And then I hold on too long and end up getting a big loss when I should have just taken a small loss, and it would have been no big deal. Instead, it ends up being a big loss that just completely screws up your stats.
Yeah. So I mean, have you got a hard stop in that stop loss level? So when you say it went to your stop loss, you obviously didn't exit the trade, but it's not a hard stop loss, so it didn't trigger, or it was just,
I was doing mental stop losses. I was watching because I'm sitting in front of the screen. I'm watching it the whole time. And the other thing I'm going to run into is I've been trying to, and I know this probably sounds like a complete newbie thing to be complaining about, but trading around the PDT is just a pain in the butt,
Okay, because you're going to do so many trades a day, is that right?
Especially, yes, because you can do 3-day trades within a rolling 5-day period, and the techniques and the strategies that Jeremy teaches are very day trade centric.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of more than once I've held trades. I'm like, I know this is a day trade, but I don't want to spend it. Let me just hold it overnight, and I'll trade it first thing tomorrow. And then it gaps down, and I lost my profit.
Right.
And the only reason why I'm holding it is because I don't want to blow a day trade. And now I don't. Now that, again, sounds like one of those things I'm like, this is probably just a newbie problem, but it's real for those of us under 25K.
Yeah. And so I mean, just going back to the stop loss thing, and I'm sorry I keep harping on about it, but so how do you know that it's time to close a trade when it's gone past that stop level?
Well, I think you're looking at two things. I mean, for me, it's basically right now I'm looking at, at some point you have to pick when you're wrong, and you have to, and I'm just reading it by trying to keep in the vein of keeping your losses small. And theoretically, and this is where the PD thing would kill me, I should just get out and then get back in lower, because I'm thinking it's going to go up at some point. Usually I try to keep everything under 3% losses. So, and essentially using probably candlestick measurements, usually looking at going, okay, if it goes under this point, that's usually a signal that it's going to downturn further rather than continue on.
Yeah. Okay. So because I mean, and the reason I ask this is because I've been in the same position where the stop is, I've got either a mental stop, even if I could even have a hard stop, and at the point that price starts getting close to it, I was like, hang on a sec. Oh, but if this, if that, and you start to make up all these scenarios to go, oh, of course, yeah. Look, I shouldn't have entered here, and I would have actually entered here, or and so therefore my stop loss would be much higher or much lower depending on if it was a buy or sell, and then you move it. And
well, I tell you what, the thing it did to me is literally just Friday, I had a massive revelation, and I started just asking myself the question of, should I just be buying at where I'm thinking of setting my stop loss? Like half the time, and should I just try to enter where I'm setting my stop loss? And that question alone, I had 2 winning trades on Friday just by waiting until it actually came down to my stop loss, where my original quote unquote stop loss is, buying there, and then it going up from there.
Yeah, and I've had the same thought process as well. And it worked for a bit, and then it didn't work, and then I gave up and moved on to something else. So, I mean, if anything, my recommendation is backtest that, and make sure you're sort of happy that's the system. And look, that's what I've sort of found is the key thing that I was missing for quite a while, which was I couldn't answer every single question, like. How do you know your stop's done? How do you know how do you know to get out if you've got a stop, which is a mental stop, which it's difficult. So anyway, so do you want to do you want to talk us through? So you basically break even, or just under break even.
Yes.
And that's primarily due to a few big losses. So before that happened, I mean, how were you tracking? How did you feel you were tracking?
Well, the last 2 months overall, I went back. I've got them all in the spreadsheet, and I'm exactly 50-50 on my trades. Actually, with the Happen Friday, I have a couple that are still, being held because they're swing trades, but over the last 3 months, I'm exactly 50-50. So.
Okay, and so that means that you've got 50% wins, 50% losses. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And are your wins bigger than the losses?
No, just by like $3.
Right. Okay. So it's basically a sort of 1-to-1 strategy. I mean, I had a look at Jeremy's video that he did with you, so that the training session, which was fascinating stuff. I mean, how did you find that when you came out the end of it? Because I mean, Bat said I was going through it at 1.75 speed, so he was doing it pretty quickly. But I saw that like a lot of it was more risk management with a little bit of an edge, and sort of saying, hey, like I don't know where the market's going to go, but if I keep my risk management in good order and keep trading the same strategy and the same approach, then things will come out in the black eventually, or I might just get a good run of blacks. So yeah, how did you find that after the show?
Well, that's certainly a piece of it. I think the other part of what he really emphasizes is using the candlesticks to understand trader sentiment. And I think you had a previous guest on. I forgot her name. I think it was the lady from Australia who was talking about, can you look at a chart and figure out?
Yeah,
yes,
Louise
was an amazing interview, and I actually was checking her stuff out. And very much when you look at the chart, where are people panicking? Where are people taking profit? Very much looking at and using that kind of, way of looking at the chart. And that's very, very in line with what Jeremy is teaching. Is number one thing his homework is that you need to be able to look at the chart and figure out, based on today, what the guy who bought yesterday is thinking.
Yeah.
And then act accordingly. And that's very much, I think you had infamously on your opener, you have the guy who says candlestick trading is a trap. And I think he is partially right. I think if you're just watching patterns and going, the hammer, the dough formed, and you're just trading off of that, I think you need to look in context of the larger chart and go, okay, this is what's happening. And then this pattern has formed, which usually indicates that this is happening. But you need to look at it within context of the larger chart and understanding, is the guy yesterday panicking, or is he, taking profits and that kind of stuff?
So would you say you've got to a point where it's, you've got a fairly mechanical system that you're going through, or is it fairly fluid based on, or discretionary based on, like that candlestick sort of tells me that everyone's panicking or that sort of thing?
I'm still I've essentially got it down to, based on stuff that we've went over Jeremy and looking at his previous videos and a lot of stuff that he shared with me, I've got it down to about, I kind of created a bullet point of these 12 different types of trades, and some of them are just variations of different stuff. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, which one of these can I trade well, and which one of these am I crap at, and I'm going to get rid of the ones that I'm bad at. But you need enough trades to know which ones you are good at. So I think that's certainly part of it. So he's big on trading, and especially day trading, his gaps. He's a huge gap trader. And I'm not revealing any secrets. He's got all his videos are public and stuff like that. And he talks about retest gaps and gap and goes. Right. So essentially, and he's real big about, you look at those gaps and then you break it down onto, okay, it does this based on what happened yesterday. Is this gap going to run, or is it going to come back? And and those have been very successful for me, just based on that. Looking at what and essentially says, what does the guy yesterday think he's doing with today? Is he taking profit? Well, then it's probably stock's going to pull back a little bit.
Right. Okay. Cool. And
so, obvious one, yeah.
So with 12 different sort of variations of a few strategies.
Yeah.
I mean, are you how are you managing that over the number of stocks that you're trading? Have you got a set limit to where you focus your attention on?
Well, I kind of broke down. I have a couple different watch lists going, and trying to sort out, okay, I'm watching this stock for this reason. I'm watching this stock for this reason. And so that way I'm very clear on what stocks I'm walking for what reasons. That way I'm not like cross-contaminating, so to speak. And also I'm trying to get a large enough sample size. And so on my chart, I'll go, okay, this is buy, this is where loss, this is where we got out, this is the profit, this is the R's, all that kind of stuff. And including that is the pattern. And I have them each numbered, 1 through 12. And then I'll write that down. And then when I feel like I have a large enough sample size, it's probably another month or two, I'll look back and I'll say, oh, okay, every time I trade, say, a double bottom, I lose. Well, clearly I should stop trading double bottoms.
Right.
And that kind of, the simplistic logic of it. And so that way I can get, okay, these are the ones that because I think he has, Jeremy has a good saying is everything works, just not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, and you have to figure out what works for you, what works for your strategy, what works for your personality. I think I'm so, in the newer phase, I'm still trying to figure out what is my style? How do I trade? What do I trade? What works for me?
And what about the psychological aspect of it? I mean, have you struggled with that at all, or is it coming quite naturally?
There's a couple. It's been like I said, I think I got to get a little more disciplined on my stops. It's definitely a huge one, as I said. I also found some bizarre stuff like before the market started. I was like, all right, I got to start getting myself in the right headspace. And so I've started, all right, I got to get up, I'll stretch a little bit. And then honestly, listening to 90's grunge music for whatever reason gets me in the right headspace.
That is odd.
I know, it's very odd, but I was just like, all right, it gets me like, because it's funny. As an actor, when you watch backstage, every performer has their own rituals. Like I know Broadway stars that would do 2 shots of vodka before they went on stage every time.
Right.
Because it needed to get to a certain level. I know other ones that would just listen to classical music or listen to heavy metal. Like everybody, needed to get themselves in that right mind state to be prepared to be on stage. And essentially it's the same thing. It's like, what do you need to do to get your mind running at the right energy wave to trade?
Yeah.
And like I need to be alert, but if I'm like overhyped, then I'm going to be engaged to overtrade. And if I'm obviously sluggish, then I'm going to be like missing stuff left and right. So you got to get right at that right sweet spot.
Okay, and so I mean, what about like from the positive side? So when you've got a winner, are you happy to let them run? I've
been playing with that's. I'm still, like I said, still very in the new phase trying to figure out. And I think, again, listening to you, and you had the gentleman who was talking about he was taking his winners much quicker at a third of whatever he thought it could run to. I forgot that gentleman.
Oh, that was Sean Lucas, who was just on last week. Yeah.
Yes. And that was, I was looking at that because I'm still trying to figure out, because everyone knows the age old saying, you let your winners run, or, you should let your winners run. Except I was doing that, and then they were all coming back, and then I was losing on a couple of them. And I'm like, all right, is this just what happens, or is this an actual, or did I make a mistake and not take, a profit where I should have?
Yeah, it's one of those things, eh? It's like the times you do let them run, and it's like, well, hang on a sec, I got stopped out. It doesn't work. What am I doing wrong? And then you start changing things straight away.
Yes.
Which also doesn't work. So there's 2 things that don't work, which means there needs to be a better way. One thing I
did learn is you need to, if you're looking at the 5-minute or whatever time chart you're looking at, keep looking. Like if I buy in off a signal on the 5-minute, then sell off the 5-minute. Don't try to sell off the hourly or something else. You need to keep, at least I found that that was certainly something I would do, is like, oh, there was a buy signal on this bullish, retest gap. And I would be like, okay, I think it's going to go. And then I'd switch over, start looking into the hourly, and I'd be trying to let it run, and it would pull back. And I'm like, I need to just stay on the chart that I bought on.
Yeah. And I think, to Sean's point, I think, and that it could be one of those things where there's like a lot of people out there going, yeah, let your winners run, and then all the people making all the money are the ones not letting their winners run, like Sean, who's taking a third of a cycle and getting out and feeling good about himself, which sort of boosts that psychological aspect, which I really liked. That said, we don't really find out, like, and I'm sure he's got some other videos where he's talked about it, but we don't really find out where he puts his stops. And that was probably the main thing that came out of that interview was like, yeah, I should have probably asked that. Where do you put your stops? And understanding that, great, if you're taking a third, but I suppose...
But it was the exact opposite of like what Louise is saying, which is she makes most of her money off a handful of trades a year. Yeah. Is what she's talking about. She gets a couple big winners, and that's where he's getting a bunch of small winners. So it's very the more I've listened to it, the more I realized everybody kind of can have exact opposite advice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been thinking back to this trader on the show in the past called Rob Booker, who has now got a robot where I just watched one of his videos recently where he like sort of snipes not profits but losses, so takes the odd loss, or his customers take the odd loss off the table at the end of the day, but at the same time it's always like placing lots of trades and making little profits, a bit like what Sean was doing. So like taking lots of trades, lots of different positions, and taking these profits off, so that when you do get a loss, it actually doesn't really matter that much. And I sort of started doing that with one of my robots, and it works quite well because it's almost like you're trading to survive a loss. And so, funnily enough, you win 3, 4, 5 trades in a row, and then you actually can accommodate one or maybe 2 losses. And then it's like, oh, hang on a sec. So now, and you keep going, you win another 4 or 5. Now I can accommodate 3 losses and 4 losses and 5. And all of a sudden you start building up this account really, through small trades, which I suppose if the loss hits, yeah, you're gonna get hit, but it's not gonna destroy you because you've built up this sort of portfolio of cash. So yeah, it's a little bit off tangent, and I don't recommend you start changing your whole strategy based on this, but it is interesting, like the different ways that people can approach this game and make money from it, which I think is the ultimate thing, and something we sometimes lose focus on is the fact that you're here to trade to make money, even though making money causes all these psychological issues with what you're doing. So it's that sort of odd combination of what Sean's doing, where it's like, okay, let's just take some money off the table and be done with it and feel good about myself, as opposed to doing this stuff where I keep losing and feel like I feel like I'm not doing, like I'm having a bad, you lose, like literally wake up in the morning, lose a bad trade overnight, or lose a trade overnight, or you're having a losing day. To try and make that feeling disappear is even with a small risk trade where the money actually doesn't matter, is quite difficult. So, I mean, how are you feeling about those sort of things?
Well, I'm thinking to the point where I feel like I'm in the tunnel and I can actually see the end of the light. Like I'm starting to see like, okay, there is a strategy here. There's something here that I can make work, and I'm still, the guy stumbling around in the dark trying to figure out which end of the blind guy, who's holding the elephant. The one guy who's holding the trunk will tell you it's a snake. The guy who's holding the tail will hold it. And so I'm starting to get a feel for what this elephant is.
Yeah.
And so I'm feeling optimistic, even though on any daily basis I might be swearing and, trying to calm myself down because as I told my wife the other day, I was like, I'm just so annoyed that I keep making the same mistakes over and over. It's not, I don't get annoyed that I make mistakes. It's annoyed that I make the same mistake over.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's like
because I can watch it, and when I'm doing back trading or after the fact, I can go, oh, this is clearly the mistake I made. Clearly, I got greedy here. Clearly, I should have done that here, or clearly, this was obvious. But then, in the moment, you get it, just it's a different thing.
Well, what sounds promising is the fact that I think with this this rule that you can't overtrade, it does automatically put you in a different headspace, because you basically can't just go right, I'm going to revenge trade on this. It takes that thing out of the equation. Is that right?
Yes and no. So the other day, the positive side is that. The negative, especially like the other day was a great example. There was was doing my scan. Three stocks hit, and all of them were this bullish retest gap that Jeremy teaches, and they're all like picture perfect for it. So I'm looking at all three of them, and I'm looking for them to, it's gapped up at the day they've all somewhere between 3 to 10%. They all start to come down, and at some point, you believe, based on the thing you believe, they're going to come down and run again. And so I'm looking at all three of them, and I've only got 1 day trade, so I can't trade all three. I have to just pick one. And I pick one, and it does a small one, and the other two ripped for one ripped for 50%, and one ripped for 20%, and the one I got ripped for 1 or 2%. And so I'm sitting looking at going I would have traded all three of these, and so and because I can only choose one to trade that day, I can't choose them all.
Right? So, yeah, it does limit things. Yeah,
yeah. So it's pluses and minuses. It's because it keeps you away from the law of big numbers. You can't get enough sample sizes in sometimes to actually test the stuff. You have to pick and choose, and that's exactly what you're trying not to do, is say, hey, every time it does this bullish retest, I'm going to get in. And then if a large enough percentage of the time it's correct, you make money. It's simple math, but if you can't get to that law of big numbers, now you're putting too much decision making in my lap.
Righty ho. It does make it hard for you. I can feel your pain.
I was thinking of the best metaphor I came up to is like if I was playing soccer, as you guys would call it, football, and I'm the new guy, and I'm told, okay, you can only touch the ball 10 times.
Yeah.
You're like, sure, I can help, I can kick the ball around, but every time the ball comes to me, I'm looking to one time it.
Yeah.
Instead of actually, do the smart play with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It does hamstring you. Yeah. It does hamstring you.
And not that you can't trade around it, and that's the other part. It's not an impossible task or anything. It's just one of those things. It's like, okay, I got to work within this little box over here.
And so what about what's up in store for you then for the next few months? I mean, have you got some sessions coming up with Jeremy, or anything outside of just doing what you're doing?
Well, we got the one session planned. We were supposed to have one earlier this month, but I think he's gotten real busy, so we haven't gotten a second session in, which I'm excited to do. But other than that, it's just still keep getting up, grinding, trying to figure out, sort of clarifying for me what exactly I'm trading and why. And so, I've kind of got a broader stroke, and I think I got to really start narrowing it down and get real specific on, okay, I'm only trading this specific thing.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to throw this question in there just because it seems like it's quite a big issue. Like, have you considered trading anything else, given the fact that there's these rules that do prevent you from trading too much?
Yeah, listening to you does tempt me to jump into the Forex, but the 4 year, I think you said the gentleman who was trading and did all right on stocks, and then eventually switched to Forex and had to start over for another 4 years. Yeah. That part does not sound fun. So it's a tough.
Yeah, I've asked you the question because I wanted to just ask it to you. I don't want to influence you in any way, shape, or form, because I think you're right. It is that. I mean, that's some good advice there. I think it was Simon that left that for us. What was his name again? Simon. Michael Storm. Michael Storm. I don't know where I got Simon from. You probably make the word Simon out of the letters in his name. Michael Storm. Yeah, I think he was one of the ones. There was actually quite a few of them that did that, had that journey from stocks to Forex, and yeah, it was never easy, was it? It was nobody ever just jumped in there and was profitable straight away. So,
well, it makes sense. The thought process is so different when trading. Forex is much more. There's a larger global market to keep at stake, and I think with a lot of times with stock, you're like, okay, how is this single company doing? And even a lot of the companies are going, I don't even know what this company does, but I know that this is what I think the previous traders are thinking. Yeah. So it's
it's completely different instruments, isn't it? I mean, it's a company versus a country. And,
yes.
A country needs a stable-ish currency. So it's always sort of mean reverting, whereas the company's looking for growth, so it's always trying to grow. So there's more sort of, I suppose a bullish bent to it or a bearish bent, depending on how the company's going. But
there's also motivation for countries to want to devalue their own currency, because then I'm not an expert on it, but there's certainly, we all know that there's value in, China's been trying to devalue their stuff for a while. Anyway.
Yeah. So it's a different beast. I think we can sort of agree on that. And hey, look, I think that's a great update from where you are now. I hope you get a session with Jeremy very soon. I'll hit him up on my end to make sure that happens. And I look forward to catching up with you later on in the year to find out how things are going.
Hopefully I'll be whistling Dixie and telling you exactly how to make a lot of money in this.
Yeah, look, that's what I hope as well, mate. So all the best. And yeah, guys, if you've got questions for Aaron, then jump onto the show notes and leave a comment there. Or if you're on YouTube, just leave a comment under the videos, and I'm sure he can answer the questions for you there. All right, mate, have a good Sunday over where you are, and I'll chat to you later.
Talk to you later.
Righty-ho, guys. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Aaron. It was fairly early in the day for me, so it wasn't probably my best work. But hey, we've got some really good episodes coming up, actually. We've got another trader coming up and something a bit special in the next couple of weeks, actually. Something a bit special. So stay tuned for that. Easter's just around the corner, so have a great Easter weekend. If you're doing something special, then I hope you enjoy it. Now, if you are thinking about joining the Robot Traders Club, I've got some cool stuff coming out the door for the Robot Traders Club. So stay tuned for that, guys. Listen up, stay tuned. Keep subscribed to the podcast. Subscribe to it if you're not already subscribed. Leave a review if you haven't left a review. And subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, because there's a lot of extra bonus content on there that I don't want you to miss. All right, guys. Okay, see you next week.